This is Al Sachs from WMUA, and I am talking with Cris Williamson this morning and want to welcome you to WMUA. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be on the air.
Well, we are so excited to have you on the air. You know, one of the reasons that we're excited is not just because you are an icon of the women's music world, but also because you're going to be coming out to visit us out here in Western Massachusetts, and you're going to be supporting one of my favorite organizations, the Institute for Musical Arts.
You bet. IMA.
IMA, yeah, the IMA. Now, the Institute for Musical Arts, how would you describe it for folks who've never heard of that, the organization?
It's a dream come true. That's what it is. Years ago, June Millington had a dream of putting together an organization that would help, in particular, up-and-coming women musicians all over the world, whether they were young or old, but certainly young to the world of music, and how to foster them, help them grow in just the way they needed to. It was a dream.
Yeah.
Far and high. And
you were saying that that the Institute for Musical Arts was started on the West Coast, back in the 80s?
Yeah, I think in the mind of, in June's mind, probably 70s even. And then when it finally, lots of dreams start just that way, and it takes a long time for them to actualize. And by the time it got actualized, it was into the 80s. And we are so happy to see them established where they are in this beautiful place. That they do is this camp for girls, rock and roll camp. And June, when I made Changer and the Change, June was the most famous person I knew then, and from Fanny to
she was
great group.
Fanny, of course, for those of you who don't know Fanny was really a pioneering women's rock and roll band.
Oh, yeah. Again, a dream.
Yeah.
A dream that was actualized, and then because of the nature of the music business, they were just ahead of the feminist movement. So they did their very best in that world, which is largely run by men, and record companies that would say to you, well, we already have a woman. They'd have like 40, 50 guys and not seem to notice any disparity there.
Yeah, right.
And so it took a while for that consciousness to become well-founded so that people just didn't laugh at you anymore. And June could move past all that laughter. June and her sister Jane, and the Millingtons could rock with the best. And when I first saw her play, I went, oh, my God. She was knuckle-deep in that guitar.
Yeah.
Play everything that the boys could play. And it was, again, one of those things in your mind, you went, well, this is all learnable stuff.
Right,
It has nothing to do with gender. It really doesn't.
No,
there are lots of things that do, but this wasn't one of them. And I, was just out there. I was sort of ahead of the feminist movement, the women's movement, just sort of naturally cruising along there in myself without any anchor in politics other than the politics of the environment, which was very, and still remains deep for me.
Yeah.
Because I think without the world, the politics are just going to float on the top, without a world in which we can live. So I still remain devoted to raising the consciousness of everyday people to, to clean up their mess, to take care of themselves and take care of the people around them, and not focus so much on how much money can I make and how rich can I be, but oh my God, should I help those people over there? Of course I should.
Yeah, how can we live lightly on this earth and support each other and being
lightly and deeply? And you're exactly right. Yep, that's the deal.
Yeah.
And music helps us do that, because it permeates all parts of our being. It isn't just enter through our ears. And June, who has only one good ear. And when I never knew that for years, and then when I discovered that, I went, oh my God, she never really is heard in stereo.
Well, that is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't stop. It didn't stop Beethoven. And I have always said to her, half jokingly, I think you were Beethoven in a past life. They gave you one ear.
Yeah, well, I had a backpacking buddy that I would hike with, and he was had only one good ear. And when he went to sleep, he turned the deaf ear up, and he went to sleep. And I was the one who was always listening to the creaks outside at night.
That's exactly right. And that's June. She can sleep for days.
Well,
here's nothing.
Yeah,
but inside there, dreaming deeply.
Absolutely.
And IMA is a result of that deep dreaming.
Yeah, her dream is one of the things that we benefit from because there are a lot of young women in this area who get to go up there in the summer for the summer camp and, one, get introduced to the fact that they can be musicians. And what I think is equally exciting is the fact that it's not only the musicianship, which a lot of young women have a lot of gifts in that area, but also it's the behind-the-scenes work, the engineering, the business work.
Yeah, all of it,
Yeah.
all of it. Wherever you want to dream, you can do this. It used to be that you didn't see any women engineers.
No,
I mean,
absolutely.
we had to search for them far and wide, and there were field producers a lot, people who would go out with their tape recorders and tape record a lot of music that, like Alan Lomax.
Yeah, the
like
wild natural sound of people singing in their natural environment, right?
Yeah, well, that's who we are,
Yeah.
and that's who June is, and that's who I am, and we have this regard for one another that is so upstanding, and despite all the changes we've gone through individually, that remains so true. She's a true-hearted, family-oriented person, and she wants to make family and tribe everywhere she goes, and she's doing that. And these young women get a chance. When we were hippies, we got a great glimpse of what tribal life was like, and that we could live together. We could learn about community. We sort of jumped from our middle-class lives, most of us, into a kind of tribal way of being, and that's who I was when when the feminists found me in D.C., and I said just sort of offhandedly during an interview, why don't you start a women's record company? And that offhanded remark the next day became Olivia Records, and then it went from there, and we made this album. I beckoned them out to the West Coast where the leash was a little bit longer.
And the weather's a little nicer.
And the weather was nicer. Pretty dry now, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hard for rain.
Well, we've been suffering through a little bit of ice and snow. It's still all
How
over
is
the
it
ground.
now?
It's still on the ground, but we're going up to 50 this week, so hope is reborn.
So now it's floods. Yeah.
Well, actually, now it's maple sugar time, so we're all happy.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, when it's
isn't that wonderful?
When it's freezing and thawing, we make maple syrup.
It's nothing I know. I mean, I know of it from reading.
Yeah.
And I know it from Robert Frost.
Right.
I know it from, the great New England poets. And, I love Massachusetts, and I've always, quote, done very well there. I've been received beautifully from my earliest days when I was scampering around in Cambridge.
Yeah.
With my friend Bonnie Raitt, we were scuffling in those days, and you got to live long and be like a maple tree, so that every now and then, every season, that tap can go in and out will come the sweetest stuff. And each album is like that for me.
Well, we're going to have to take you out for a maple breakfast when you come out here because, we can go to an evaporator and watch it. But you're going to be coming out. Let's just repeat this for our listeners out there.
Yep.
On March 29th at 7 o'clock,
right.
Cris Williamson.
Saturday night.
Party. We will be. We're going out to the IMA's Big Barn out in Goshen, and
that's right.
Tickets are pretty reasonable. You can get them beforehand if you go to their website, or you can get them at the door if there's any left. But I'd get them beforehand just to make sure you nail them down, because
that's right.
Lord knows a lot of us have been listening to you for years. I mean, I remember listening to you. It would always be kind of like, "Oh, Cris is coming to town. Let's all go together." And so we'd all pile in the car and come on down or whatever we needed to do. And,
love that.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're very excited that you're coming because not only is it great to hear you, but it's also great to support this wonderful institute, this wonderful cause. And now let's go back. You are in the process of supporting your new album, Pray Tell.
Right.
Yep. So you're traveling around the country again?
I am. I mean, it's a lot more limited for all sorts of reasons. Finances. I mean, it's so costly to travel these days.
Yep.
But still doable. And also, I've been staying home and writing a lot more.
Nice.
And having a life. Not that I didn't have a life, but it's a different style of life. Here in Seattle, I stay put and watch the weather change. And so there's something to be said for that, a different kind of seasonal approach to life. And as I get older, that seems to make a lot of sense as well. But God, do I love my time upon the stage. There's nothing so fine as those hours, those couple hours there where I get to do what I love most in all the world, sing,
Yeah, well, now tell me, I was looking on the internet, which is never in a complete sense source of information, despite what we think, and it looks like you've had a break between your last album and this one. There's been a number of years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
This one took 2 years, and it started out, which is pretty much like going to a well with a bucket.
Yeah.
Whenever this voice would say, it's time to go to the well. So I would go, and I thought at 12 songs I was done.
Yeah.
And then it said, well, I think you should just, go over there and see. And I went, oh, my God, there were, 12 more.
Wow. So
yes, and I've expanded into playing a couple more instruments besides the piano and guitar. I'm playing a beautiful little instrument that's a mountain dulcimer, basically on a string, called a strum stick. And it's a great droney Appalachian kind of sound, and also a double-string ukulele, which is so ringy and beautiful and sweet. And it's the upcoming instrument these days.
Oh, everybody's mad about ukes.
See, there you have it. You just have to live long enough where people don't snicker. Oh, really? Ukulele, huh?
Well, of course, we know that in the early 1900s there was a huge ukulele craze in this country.
I know it.
It's funny because it's almost 100 years, not to the day, but to the decade that we're coming back to the ukulele.
That's it.
One of the things that I like about the ukulele is it's such a democratic instrument.
Isn't it the truth? Anybody can play. Anyone. And the strum stick is like that as well. I teach songwriting, and I'm, intent on everyone learning to play something.
Yeah.
Learn to play an instrument. I mean, Rumi has this great thing that he says, and I wrote a song based around it, which is, when you wake up and you're just desolate in your day, and you go to the library and you mope around and you look for a book that might help you. And he says, don't do that. Take down an instrument of music and play.
Absolutely.
In songwriting, I help people say, did you used to play piano? And you probably had somebody scare you out of it, right? And they went, yes. And singing, too. People get scared away from it.
Yeah.
And so fearful of criticism.
Yeah.
I don't. Nobody likes criticism. Nobody. You can pretend you do, but I swear no one does well under it. It isn't a kind of feedback is a different thing. And as a teacher, I've learned to feed them back.
Yeah.
Something I learned from Native people, which is, their idea of feedback means you get to be first in line for supper, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So if I can do that way in my teaching, and people can learn to write a song. It's a doable thing. It's like making a cake. There are some people, of course, who will always be more adept at the recipe.
Sure.
They'll have some skill in there that you just simply don't have. But can you learn that skill? I don't know. I mean, there are gifts and there are gifts.
Right, right.
I came into this world with this voice. Believe me, nobody's been more impressed than I at saying, "Oh my God, doesn't everybody have this?"
Well, I have a little cooperative that I'm working with these days. I'm the general manager of this cooperative, and one of the things we have is craftspeople come in. And I was talking with some of the artists that are looking to show there and get their stuff in there. And what I like is the fact that most folks are like, "Look, I need to make this stuff. I need to do this." It's not like, "Oh, this is my business. I am doing this," because they are just like. They're driven. They're driven to make it, and I think that's true with a lot of creative things.
Better to be driven by something like that than greed.
Yeah.
If you have greed, I mean, you're just greedy to make more beauty in the world.
Yeah.
Because beauty bites the dust every day. every day there's not enough investment in beauty. There's lots of investment in other things, but not because they're beautiful. And it's becoming increasingly rare and kind of drops below the surface. You have to hunt again be a hunter, and gatherer. I mean, my songwriting classes are called Catch and Release because that's what I think I know. But see, the surrender that's involved in between the two is so beautiful that you don't own them. You do, but you don't.
For some people, they're visited by a song.
That's right. My first song was like that at 16. I can't say I wrote it. It wrote me. It just came through me, and then I tried in vain because there weren't any songbooks for dummies in those days. Nothing for dummies. Just you are, and that's where you'll be. And I just learned by imitation because I grew up listening to and eventually seeing and meeting some of my heroes, Joan Baez and Carole King and Bob Dylan, and I got to see them because I moved to Denver to go to school, which was the nearest big city out in the prairies. Everything pretty much drifted through Denver in those days, and so I got a chance to see, like Dylan, when he dressed completely in black and had his fro and played, God, that stuff. Oh, and I would walk the streets, till 3 in the morning going, ooh, this stuff is just tearing me up. It's so great and so powerful. What am I going to do? Because I hadn't written anything at 16.
And Joan's voice pierced me as a young...
Well, and rightly so, It was a weapon.
Yeah.
It was a weapon of the revolution, and I went, revolution, let's see, that means to turn. What the hell is turning out there? I'd like to be a part of that. I want to be on that wheel. I got a chance to tell her I was at a show up in Billings and just happened to be there, and Bonnie and the Indigo Girls and Joan were doing a show, and I sat out on the sidelines, and all of a sudden they beckoned me to come out and sing with them. It was so great.
Oh,
but I got a chance at the break to be down in the basement of this building, washing my hands in a sink next to Joan, and I'm looking at our hands, and I'm looking at her in the mirror, and then I look over and I say, Joan, I grew up just south of here in Wyoming, and it was you. I wouldn't be standing here right this moment today if not for you. And a chance to say that, where you bow to the masters who you're lucky enough to see and to be in the presence of.
Well, we want to tell everybody out there that we are going to have Cris Williamson come to be the master for us in our neighborhood on Saturday, March 29th at 7 o'clock up at the IMA's Big Barn in Goshen. And we want to encourage everybody to come out to not only hear Cris, but also to support this wonderful institution because it is growing some of the most exciting young musicians. I help do some local programming for little music festivals and very low-key kind of things, but it is so exciting to have the students and the groups that are coming out of IMA.
Isn't it great? It does go on.
They keep on keeping on, and they are growing and maturing, and it's a seed planting type of operation up there.
That's right. And I'm just coming to pour the water all over all of us, including myself, because it's like that. The music, we're so lucky to have radio still in this world.
Well,
to have,
absolutely.
To have young musicians still longingly looking up and going, can I get on the wheel?
Well, we're gonna be having you fill us up and pour us over like an endless waterfall when you come out here. And I know that in the 70s, I gathered with our friends and we all sang Song of the Soul together. And that helped carry us forward in all the activities that we were doing.
It's like Pete Seeger says, for God's sake, have a chorus.
Absolutely.
Above all.
Something we can all sing along with,
Well, it carries you forward. It becomes portable, You don't need me to do it because you'd memorized the song.
And then you can kind of make up kind of crazy verses in between just for the fun of it.
Oh, yeah, and people have, for sure.
Well, listen, Cris, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. And
Al, thank you for making time for me and for all the work you do in your community there. it's so nice to be on the radio. It's a rare thing for me, so thank you.
Yeah, we're lucky here. This is WMUA, which is a community and college radio station, so I get to work with some brilliant young college students, some old, cranky community members who some of whom are refugees from commercial radio, but many of us have learned our chops right here at the radio station. You know, we do want to keep the whole live radio thing going on, and that's,
I know it. It's so important.
Yeah.
People who've never been without it, and those of us who remember the old days before community radio got invented,
right?
And then we're not going to see it go.
Well, we are not, and we're going to be holding firm here in other local small radio stations to make sure that real humans get on the radio instead of.
Thank you, Al, and thank you, WMUA, for staying there. I've listened to you when I drive through. When I'm out in Western Mass, I always have the radio on there. So.
Well, thank you for joining us. Well,
okay, pal.
Take care.
Thank you, and I'll see you. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I hope I can get up there.
I hope so too, Al.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.